This is Voice of the Bus, Mark Johnson, and you're listening to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast.
Welcome to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast. My name's Jake. I'm here with Chase and Sirayas. Topher's busy coaching up some youngins right now. But guys, the season's over. Buffs are not fully over. The regular season's over. Buffs are 9-3. And most importantly, we now have a second Heisman winner in CU history. If we had a sound effect, I would do it. I'm just going to clap for everybody. But guys, I think most of this episode, we're going to talk about Travis Hunter and how much of a legend he is and just the overall reaction from ourselves. I think one thing that makes this podcast unique is all of us have been diehard Buffs fans for 15 plus years, I'll say. Most of us for our entire lives. I know Chase and Sirayas, that's the case. Not so much for myself. But that's what makes this podcast unique. There's been no other podcast that's done by diehard CU fans. And CU winning the Heisman Trophy for a second time just means so much to us and so much to this fan base. So I want to open it up to you guys. What does this Heisman mean to you guys? And what are your overall thoughts of Travis winning it?
Yeah, I just for perspective, I think and Shreyas, you might agree with this. So my parents both went to Colorado. They started in 1990, saw a national championship. In 1994, they graduated as seniors with the Heisman Trophy winner. Their football experience was so much better than anyone on this podcast while we were in school, like just infinitely better. But I remember thinking several times that, you know, we cherish those memories. And even though we weren't even alive to experience it. I mean, I guess Shreyas was probably like 40 by the time 1990 came around, but we were not there, right? We didn't experience this. And so it was always like living and growing up in it with the lost era of previous time. And so it's really, really cool. Like the good days are today. And it's not just, you know, Colorado fans for a long time, all we had to go back on Twitter was the old days, the 90s, essentially. I mean, really just very late 80s to early 2000s was the heydays, really. And everything else, you just had to accept the fact that like this was a program that was dead. And so we would live through the glory and bring that up. But it was sad because, you know, you're just as bad as Nebraska was about living in the past. Now the difference is we have a future and they don't, but it's exciting because this is something that can never, ever be taken away from the program. And I have to think back about a tweet, and I wish I knew who tweeted it, but this was years ago. I saw a tweet, and I want to say it was Buffnick or someone like that. One of the OG great, you know, CU, you know, on all the messaging boards and stuff like that. And they tweeted out maybe 3 years ago, I believe that CU will win another national championship. And I remember, and maybe Shreyas remembers who this wasn't, and if you do, please bring it up. But I remember reading that and being like, that is so sad because it's so delusional.
I think it's Jeremy.
Jeremy. It was definitely Jeremy.
But I remember seeing it and being like, that is heartbreaking because I want it so bad and I want to believe, but in the same way that, you know, I didn't have faith. And part of this is that Colorado made a big change at a time when college football was changing. But long story short is we experienced a Heisman winner at the University of Colorado, and very few schools have one Heisman winner, let alone multiple. And that is something that the program could disappear tomorrow and they can never, ever take that from us. And it's so special. And I don't think we can, I don't even know if I've fully processed it. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on that, but you know, I'll get off my soapbox, but it's one of those things where I would have told you, if you had told me 3 years ago that we would be talking about a Heisman winner at Colorado, I would simply not believe you. I would have bet an infinite amount of money that would not happen. And here we are cashing our tickets. I hope everyone cashed a ticket like I did for Travis winning the Heisman for our school, and giving a shout out to Colorado at the end of the speech was just incredible.
School Buffs, baby.
You know who else has those high aspirations for CU sports? Me. That's why I'm so hard on basketball, and we'll get into it at the end. But yeah, it's so pumped. Sorry, I just had to add that before you go, Sirayas.
You know, it's incredible to think about what CU is now. What CU has become is a big market school or a big market sports team. Isn't that insane? All of us grew up in Denver area. And we remember how the national media would talk down on every other team, every other local team, other than the Broncos, maybe because the Broncos do have a bit of a national brand. And I just remember how frustrating it would be to go to Pepsi Center and see it flooded with Bulls fans or Lakers fans, and go to Coors Field and be flooded with every other team's fans. And now the way that CU, our alma mater, the way that our alma mater is being talked about is like we're the big brand that is stole a Heisman, right? That is so cool. It's so cool being on the other side of this, actually. I know everyone's been frustrated with the social media reactions and all of that stuff to what's happened to Travis versus Genty. Both amazing seasons, both amazing players, both deserving. I think Travis is more deserving. A Boise State fan might think Genty's more deserving. That's fine. That's fine. But the level to which the vitriol has gone about Travis is because people see either subconsciously or consciously as a big market program. And that alone is inconceivable. And it makes me very, very excited because these big market programs are pretty much always the programs that compete for the bigger prizes, especially in college football. Think about the last 25 years. Has an underdog, like a true underdog, ever won the national championship? Like, even made it to the national championship is relatively rare. TCU almost did it. Well, almost. And then they lost 65-7 in the national championship game. Was that really that close? Notre Dame, they were kind of an underdog when they lost to Alabama all those years ago with Teo, and they got spanked. So it doesn't feel like an underdog program can really get that far. It's all these big market programs with big budgets, and now the budgets are even coming out. And
It's
now
only going to get worse.
Yeah, it's only the haves and have-nots are getting even more divided, and all the vitriol being sent towards CU is such a good sign. It is, because 2 years ago, I tell you what, if someone said that CU would have a Heisman candidate, I'd say, okay, it's probably someone who is a fourth or fifth year senior who had an all-world season and came up short because he was on a 7-5 team that struggled to make a bowl game and didn't get the attention that he deserved over a big market star. Kind of reminiscent of Toby. Like, think about all those Stanford players who came in second place. Toby Gerhart, Andrew Luck twice, Christian McCaffrey, who's a household name now, and he comes from a household name family. He came up short. Bryce Love, people forget about that. 5 times Stanford got snubbed in the span of 8 years. Came in second place each time. CU, we're here. Like, we are here, period, right? I get that Travis is going to the NFL, Shador's going to the NFL. It's amazing that they're even playing this bowl game. That's so cool. Like, I love that for us. I love that for our brand to have that opportunity. It's a big risk for them, but it's an amazing opportunity for us. And we're going to have to reload. We're going to have to retool and reload and bring in some new talent. But the fact that we're being talked about this way with this much vitriol is such a good sign. And having another Heisman to put into the Champions Center, one of 2 programs out west to have multiple Heismans. 2, USC, who has the most with 8, and CU with 2. No other school out west in the Mountain or the Pacific time zones have more than 2. That is incredible. Wow.
Yeah, I tweeted out total rage bait, but we were on a list for the last 30 years, which schools have 2 or more Heismans, and it's 9 schools, and it's all the blue bloods of college football. And I said, come be a part of an elite program, elite in all caps, and it kind of blew up. But that stat's funny because when was our last Heisman winner? Exactly 30 years ago, the late, great Rashaan Salam. But I could not be more proud as a Buff and more excited that Travis Hunter won this award. Let's just kind of sit on Travis for a moment here because he gets so much trash. The Boise State fans were relentless, and not even Boise State. All college football fans were relentless on why Travis Hunter should not win this award, which is absolutely crazy. We can get into that a little bit later here. But I just want to sit on Travis Hunter as a person. He is an academic All-American, 4.0 GPA student. When CSU last year had a dirty hit on him, and it was definitely a dirty hit, no doubt about it. Travis Hunter invites that player, Charlie Blackburn, to go bowling. And
just call him Charlie. like the Rockies player.
Oh, sorry. No.
Henry Blackburn.
Henry Blackburn. Thank you. Charlie Blackman. No. Yeah, and they posted a YouTube video to clear the air, and Travis said, "We're straight." Travis Hunter also, this came out today. Deion Sanders Jr., aka Bucky, came out on help me out, Matt McChesney's podcast. Check it out. But he came out and said that Travis Hunter has taken no NIL money from the university. And on top of that, he is one of the biggest donators for the NIL collective at CU. And he's funded about 10 to 15 student athletes and has provided NIL funds for them. That's unreal. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Travis Hunter, he's one of the hardest workers on the team. He consistently watches the most film. I think there was a quote that said he watched more film than his high school coaches. So I could not be more proud for Travis. I think that his speech got us all in the emotions. Just when he was talking about his father, he was really bummed that his father couldn't make it to the event. His father really wanted to go, but he couldn't go. And just such an emotional moment. And for such a great kid, I could not be more proud as a CU alum that Travis Hunter won this award.
It's such a unique, distinctive honor to have someone like that share an alma mater with you. These people do not come often. And if you're a Texas Tech fan, you have Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes, say what you will about the Chiefs or whatever. Obviously, I'm not a Chiefs fan. I don't think anyone here is a Chiefs fan, but the amount that he's brought back to that school, the amount of positive attention he's brought back to them has been immensely positive. And Travis has that type of potential, if not more, for CU, because he has that kind of personality. I mean, the fact that he was able to generate so much NIL without having collective money shows you how marketable he is. And it makes total sense now, because when you go through his personal Instagram account in particular, which has an immense following, it's actually a bigger following than on Twitter, you just see ad, like ad for United, ad for Beats, ad for almonds. Like, it just goes on and on. There's just some new sponsorship or endorsement that Travis has done. That's not going to stop. He has a absolutely magnetic personality, and people have been attacking him for completely out of pocket reasons. A lot of it, I'm convinced, is jealousy, and that's all temporary. Coach Prime himself, Deion Sanders himself, had to deal with a ton of that. But one of the cool things that's come out recently is them digging up all of Coach Prime's old commercials from the 90s, like during the Super Bowl and stuff like that. People forget, because a lot of us were kids or not even born when some of these commercials were airing. But he was on the TV all the time. This was one of the most magnetic people that made the Dallas Cowboys America's team in the 90s, and the moniker that they still like to carry to this day, despite not having won a playoff game since then. That is what Travis Hunter, that's the kind of potential that he has to bring for CU, and honestly, whatever NFL team he goes to. He is one of one.
And think about, we have not had a start. Think about Colorado football players in the NFL. You can think of Chidobe Awuzie, who had a great season and has kind of, not kept up at that level. But as far as quarterbacks go, right, you have one example, and it's Slash. As far as, and Shador will obviously be changing that next year. But as far as like top tier wide receiver talent, that has just not been something where, you watch Monday Night Football, or is it Sunday? I can't remember which one does it, Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, that does the name and school announcement, right? And Colorado has not been represented there very well for a very long time. And it's nice to see, that's important, right? That's what kids see when they're growing up. And that's free advertising for the strength of your football program. And I'm tired of seeing Ohio State 17 times and Alabama and stuff like that. So it's exciting that, and I think this is part of NIL just generally, right? Is you're seeing more spread out talent across college football. How long that will last, who knows? But one thing that I had to point out, I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but John Crimber, who is like a professional bull rider, was one of the most excited people about Travis winning the Heisman, because they met, I guess, like 6 months ago and really got along. And so he was really excited for him. But what is crazy is, I think my favorite thing about Travis Hunter, and anyone who's seen the Prime on Amazon Prime will recognize this. And if you haven't, I highly recommend it. And hopefully season 3 will be coming out here soon. But Travis Hunter, the breadth of his, he's like the most interesting man in the world, right? He's a top tier streamer on Twitch. He goes to bull riding. He loves to go fishing. He's a great student 4.0 athlete. He's watching more film than his coaches. And we talked about this throughout the season, right? You can tell he watches film because he's jumping routes consistently. It's not just talent. It is work ethic that shows up. That's how you get those interceptions that he got, right? These are not just they happen to throw in the wrong place kind of interceptions. And so like everything about him is so unbelievably likable. And people still hate him because they hate Coach Prime so much that they can't possibly stand to see this kid who is, there's nothing unlikable about him. You know, like he's such a good guy. And you know,
also
he did the thing.
Right?
And he's
very selfless.
He did the YouTube thing. He's blocking for his team. He's playing in the bowl game, which I have different thoughts than you guys do, I guess, on that. But that is psychotic. I mean, go get paid, man. We need you in the NFL. We need you in the NFL. We need you to represent us in the NFL. Please, for the love of God, do not go get a torn ACL and ruin your anyway. But I mean, he is so likable, and it's frustrating because like if you don't like Coach Prime, whatever, like there's probably some baggage there. But I get it. You know, he's at least Coach Prime talks the talk, but he cashes the check that his mouth writes, right? Travis Hunter is by all accounts so down to earth and likable. And he's big about like charity and helping out. I mean, he checks every box. And I'm going to, maybe this is controversial. I'm going to say it. I was on the fence about saying it. Ashton Genty complaining about not winning the Heisman is more example of why he should not have won the Heisman. Like it's so low class. Like you lost. It sucks. You're a great guy. No.
I took it out of context. That's out of context. Yeah.
All right. So I'm talking about the headline, but I also saw the quote. He said it should have been me. No, it should not have. No, it should not have. You were not the best player in college football that year. You're maybe going to break Barry Sanders' unbreakable record because you're getting 5 extra games to do it. I don't want to hear it. Like it's frustrating because like and I know for a fact that Travis Hunter, if he'd lost it, would have been like, Genty had a great season, really happy for him. I'm going to go cry with all 17 other trophies that I won this season other than the Heisman, right? But I mean, it's just frustrating because he's such a good guy and people are misdirecting their hate for Coach Prime towards him. And we've talked about the hate for Coach Prime before, and we all agree it's ridiculous. But even if you wanted to have that, like at least give Travis Hunter his flowers and respect the greatness that was this past season and what he's going to be in the NFL, and enough of like the attacks on his character, I guess.
Let's give some context for the Genty thing, and we can spend some time on it. But here's the final voting. If you can see us on YouTube, Travis Hunter received 2,231 points. Those points are just a tabulation of first, second, and third place votes. Again, each Heisman voter only has 3 votes. And Travis Hunter got 552 first place votes. Ashton Genty had 2,017 points. That's only about 200 points away from Travis Hunter, which I believe is the closest margin of victory since about 9 years ago. Did I get that right, guys?
2009,
yes.
I think.
2009.
Okay, 2009. So way longer than 9 years ago. But to give kind of more clarity here, Travis Hunter had, again, I just said it, 552 first place votes, 261 second place votes, and only 53 third place votes. Ashton Genty, on the other hand, had 309 first place votes, had double the amount of second place votes from Travis at 517, and then had 56 third place votes. What's interesting is you had, I want to get the number right, but it's about like 30 or 60 Heisman voters that didn't vote for Travis Hunter in their top 3 at all. So I'll leave it at that. What are you guys' thoughts of the whole voting situation, the Travis Hunter hate, the whole, yeah, I'll open it to you guys.
It was an all-time smear campaign for sure. And this was the same type of gaslighting that CU fans saw all offseason from everyone, right? The media did it. The non-CU, like the people who are involved with CU, that's the thing. You always think about people who are closely involved with the program being biased. Actually, I think that those are some of the only people that were covering CU fairly in the offseason, and it shows because it was popular opinion outside of the CU bubble that CU was going to be a 3 or 4 win team again. They were going to play a really hard schedule that was harder, which all of us laughed at, that it was actually going to be harder going to the Big 12. And they were basically going to fire. Like I saw some people saying that they were going to fire Prime. Like, oh, they're going to be so bad they're going to have to fire Prime afterwards. Think about how wrong you have to be to come up with an opinion like that, only to have CU go 9-3, tie for first place in the Big 12, have Coach Prime be a Coach of the Year candidate, and then Travis Hunter win the Heisman. Like, this is the exact same echo chamber, and it's a massive echo chamber. This echo chamber is larger than the CU fan base. This is a group of people who were literally so convinced of this one outcome. And when they don't get it, now they're gaslighting us about how a guy playing full-time both ways, as a top 5 player on both positions that he was playing. Think about how much film that you need to watch to be good at that. You need to understand what every wide receiver is doing on the opposition and what every quarterback is doing with the opposition. You're literally doubling the effort. And he did it at such a high level. He was, 5th-ranked wide receiver by PFF, 2nd-ranked cornerback by PFF. That is outrageous. That is outrageously good. And this is one player doing that. And he had numerous Heisman moments, highlight reel catches, the goal line forced fumble. My goodness. And even intangibles. We've talked about this ad nauseum on this pod, about the chase down tackles, the blocking, being a decoy on the Hail Mary. This is the consummate Heisman. Add in the academic All-American part of it. This is the consummate Heisman. And you can talk up about Genty. He had an incredible season. And we have seen Mountain West running backs put together seasons like this in the past, and Group of 5 in general. One of them, who this was, I think, in the WAC. This was before the Mountain West. But TCU had a guy named LaDainian Tomlinson who absolutely went off in 3 of his years. And he has a gold jacket. Like, he is an NFL Hall of Famer. Genty has absolutely the opportunity to do that, right? He's shown us a lot of that same type of skill. And LT, growing up out here, growing up a Broncos fan, he's still in my nightmares to this day. Like, that guy was an all-world performer. Genty can absolutely have the opportunity to do that. But you know what? That competition, I was watching that Boise, I believe it was the Boise-Wyoming game, and one of the things that stood out to me towards the end of the game, Genty, he had a very high workload, which is also impressive, right? That you can continue to take that much beating over and over again. But one thing that stood out to me is there was an opportunity for an open field tackle from a Wyoming linebacker, and Genty taps him on the head. He just tapped him on the head, and he fell, and he was cooked. That is that going to happen if you're playing at the Power 5 level? Maybe, but that doesn't leave a great impression about your all-world season being on the same level as the type of running backs that have won in the past, like Derrick Henry, even Mark Ingram versus the Mark Ingram versus Toby Gerhart background. Toby Gerhart had an all-world offensive line that year. Mark Ingram was on the national championship Alabama team, right? So, yes, he had a great season, but you can understand why voters notably looked at that strength of, like, not just the strength of schedule, but the strength of the defenses that Genty had to face, and was bowling over because they were like 100th ranked rushing defenses. Wyoming was not good this year. Wyoming was horrendous. And that was like the norm, right? When you play San Jose State, who actually had a decent season, but that's one of the better teams that you played. It's going to be very difficult to get over the top. And when you have someone like Travis Hunter, who literally had a Shohei Ohtani equivalent season at the college level, at the Power 5 level, say what you will about the Big 12, we definitely took a step down in strength of schedule from the Pac-12, which was unbelievably difficult the last couple of years. But it's still a Power 4 conference, like, where every team, we played multiple teams this year that were 8-win teams, and 8-win teams against pretty strong competition overall. Even our bad teams in conference, like Utah, they have a really tough defense. So you can't talk down on that, right? Like, that's a historic season. It's going to age really well, guys. we're going to really look back at this in 10, 20 years and be like, wow, I can't believe this was controversial. Like, this was insane. No one has ever attempted this. No one has ever been able to replicate this again. And I would say it's not impossible with some of these long schedules where teams could be playing 15, 16 games. You could have a 3,000-yard rusher someday. And we're going to be glad. I mean, these voters that gave Travis the Heisman are going to feel pretty good about themselves that they didn't snub him, because the snub would have looked way worse.
Yeah, I think Sreyas has mentioned Shohei Ohtani's name more than Dallin Hayden's name with just the comparisons.
I think the other component there, right, is that Ashton Jeanty had great stats, and I get it, but the big critique for Travis was that he was a snap merchant, right, and that he just plays a lot of snaps. He doesn't do anything, and we talked about this before, right? Great corners do not show up on stat sheets. That's one of the bigger problems for corners, especially on getting paid at the NFL level.
All-time smear campaign. That's exactly what was an all-time smear campaign.
But Ashton Jeanty was also getting like 35, 37, 40 carries a game. Talk about a snap merchant. Of course you are going to have a lot of rushing yards if you are running against Wyoming and running 40 times in a game, right?
And look at the tape. Boise State did a fake punt to give to Ashton Jeanty in the fourth quarter when they were up by like 21 points.
Right, but only Colorado is padding stats. 34 carries against Nevada. Like, congratulations, you ran for 209 yards against Nevada and ran 34 times. He had a great season. I want to like him. But the smear campaign was so unbelievable. And to your point, Sreyas, it really felt like it was building momentum. And Ashton Jeanty had the benefit of getting to play in a conference championship game that Travis Hunter did not. And I just really appreciate that the Heisman voters were the adults in the room, and they sat back, and instead of letting Twitter influence them or falling into it, they sat back and they thought, no, this is, and a lot of people, to their credit, put their ballots out there publicly after it's over. And they said, look, it could have gone either way. It was a tough decision. I agree. But at the end of the day, this is something that we have never seen before, and we may never see again, right? Even Charles Woodson, that was a season we'll never see again. Comparatively, it's not the same, right? Like, Travis was the best wide receiver in college football. And even if you disagree with that, there's no question that he was an elite wide receiver. He could get drafted in the first round for his wide receiver abilities alone. And by the way, he was the best corner in every football game that he played in this season. So it's just insane. And the other component that I just wanted to bring up very quickly, the Heisman Trophy. I know it's the best player in college football, but the criteria is outstanding performance, which best exhibits the pursuit of excellence with integrity. Winners will epitomize great ability combined with diligence, perseverance, and hard work. And even if you just sit back and think about those intangible qualities, right? Who better reflects that than Travis Hunter? And, he puts in the work, he put in the time. Like, it's not like he's just incredibly talented. Travis Hunter is so talented. He could punt on it 100% and still be a top player at the college football level, right? But he puts in the effort and the time, and he loves football. So, anyone listening to this podcast, especially by this point, is 100% in agreement with us anyway. But if that had not, if it had gone the other direction, it would have been the stub of all time, and it would be brought up for the rest of history. And so I'm really glad that the voters found a way to be serious about this, make sure the right guy won the trophy, and Travis definitely 100% deserved it. Sad for Jeanty, a little conflicted. I know I'm back and forth. But the right guy got the trophy.
Yeah, I just hope this leads to more West Coast Heisman too. Go ahead, Jake.
I was just going to add, I honestly don't blame the Boise State fans that much, because like, if it's flipped, I'm going to defend my guy. I'm going to attack the other guy. I mean, we didn't attack Jeanty, when we were doing our analysis, but I don't blame him that much. It's the other college football fans that don't watch either CU or Boise State. Look at the stats. Even Travis Hunter's stats are better, but if literally every game my jaw dropped on one of the catches Travis Hunter had, and I'm like, is this guy real? Literally every single game. Watch the tape. It's not a 50-50 ball to Travis Hunter. I think it's actually the stat came out.
Like 67.
60?
Yeah.
Yeah, these 50-50 balls to Travis Hunter
67% contested.
are a 70% catch rate. Yeah. And that's the best in college football history. This guy is a freak, and you're going to see it in the NFL. I just hope he goes to a team that can give him that opportunity. But just to end this on a great note, we have a second Heisman winner. Only 20 teams have done that in college football. That's just awesome.
I just have a quick Barb. it was very nice that Dan Lanning was able to go to the Heisman to see Deion Sanders have a player win a trophy. Dan Lanning's not going to win a trophy this year. Oregon will never get a trophy like that. Oregon's never going to get a national championship trophy. I'm putting my reputation on it. So I hope they enjoy their bye.
You'll never get a trophy like that this year, though.
Before they get deleted. Well, okay. But they will not be winning a trophy this season. Coach Prime did. I'm really happy that his biggest fan, Dan Lanning, could be in the audience there to witness it. So
just Dylan Gabriel.
Anonymous coach. Sorry, anonymous coach. You have to give him some anonymous coach. It's not Dan Lanning.
And Dylan Gabriel came out saying he wanted Ashton Genty to win. And
it's because he wanted clicks. He just wanted clicks.
At the end, you could tell he was so pissed that Travis won. Crazy. Any other thoughts, guys, before I move on?
I'm good. I think I got it all out. That was good therapy. Thanks, guys.
There we go. Why do we need therapy? We won the Heisman, baby. We won. We won.
Yeah, facts. That is facts.
Facts. Some off-season news. We're not in the off-season, but some news in between games. Starting off, well, I'll do the one that's not as huge, in my opinion. But Coach Riz Press, one of the key folks on the staff, especially the recruiting staff. I think he was the director of player development.
Yeah.
I don't know his official title, but he was instrumental in recruiting in the portal and high school kids. He is off to Florida State, got a job offer there. That's a big loss for the Buffs. And then also the second big news piece for the Buffs is Nakai Hill-Green, starting middle linebacker for the Buffs, has entered the transfer portal. I think a lot of CU fans were thinking he'd go straight to the NFL. He would definitely be a draft pick if he declared for the NFL. And a lot of folks were pretty shocked by this news that he's entering the portal. So I'll open up to you guys. You guys can talk on either of those or even something I didn't mention. We have a lot of exciting visitors from the portal coming in. Yeah, I'll just open up the floor to you both.
I am not worried. I remember this time last year, we didn't have a defensive coordinator. We didn't have anyone in the portal. We had people leaving from the portal. And we ended up with significantly improved talent. And that was evident, not just in the final record that we had, but in our point differential, which was the best in the Big 12. We had to play. So even if you look at the strength of schedule and say, oh, it was a weaker strength of schedule, we played two rivals on the road in non-conference who were charged up. We have to add that in there too. And yes, we got beat pretty bad by Nebraska, but we took care of business against CSU, who turns out pretty decent team. So that was with not having coordinators, like our coordinator situation figured out. That was with, oh God, we're going to have Pat Shurmur. Oh, sorry. Chase is the biggest Pat Shurmur stan in the world, right? And you know what? I think Pat Shurmur did fine personally. I think that he did fine this year. So when we look at that, I trust in Prime, man. I trust in Prime. I ain't worried. I ain't worried at all. The thing that always comes back, and we have to wait a few months out for this, the moment that people smeared CU to such an incredible extent was right after the spring game when all those transfers hit. Like, oh, that's 2 straight years. Cut the whole team after the spring. They're cooked. They're going to go 1-11. They're going to go 3-9. I mean, that was when all those receipts that we have now from the spring, that's when a lot of those receipts were dropped because people are completely convinced of an inevitable outcome. And I am excited for some of the visitors that we've heard. I think Jake alluded to this, but Jaheim Otis from Alabama, that'd be a huge get if we can get him. Kevin Concepcion from, I think, NC State, I believe. That's a really talented wide receiver. I'm not worried, guys. I'm not worried. I think we'll be in good shape. And now we've proven that it can be done. It can, and not only that, hey, any two-way players out there, CU and Prime, he got you. He did it at the highest level. He played two ways in the Super Bowl where he was catching touchdown passes and playing cornerback. This is your spot. You come here. And if it happens again, it would be because of what happened here already this year. A Heisman, greatest two-way player, two-way season ever. Come play for the guy that made that possible. Because chances are, with how talented Trav is, he goes to a big-name program they're probably not going to give him that opportunity. They might have him come in for packages, but certainly not play full time, play every snap. And that's why a snap count matters too. So I'm not worried, guys. Chase, what do you think?
I have to give credit. I did see some Florida State fans who, after Travis won the Heisman, they had the wherewithal on Twitter of all places. They were like, he made the right decision. He could not have done that if he stayed here. And they're 100% right. If you don't have a coach that's willing to let you do that, you just can't do it. It's not something that he would have been able to necessarily do at Florida State. I really don't think he would have. I pulled up Colorado's season stats because someone undermined Pat Shurmur's phenomenal season this year. But I just want to remind everyone that we averaged damn near close to 30 points per game. And I can break the news, even though Sreyas is the one with the excited looking on his face because I happen to be the one with my mic unmuted. But a big commit here just now. Breaking news. We're breaking on the podcast. Go for it, Sreyas.
Yeah. Junior DT, Jaheim Otis from Alabama, coming to Boulder, baby. Hell yeah.
Number one defensive transfer portal prospect. Number one.
Interesting. Jake calls it a lock. Jake calls it a lock, not 30 seconds ago on our podcast. And
you heard it here first.
Immediately he feels compelled to commit. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Who was my
solved
second
our
lock?
offense problems. We solved our kicking problems.
Kevin Concepcion. Hey, that reminds me. Was it Elliot Arnold? So we have a kicker that can kick touchbacks now, and Topher's not even here. Oh, wait, we can't talk about this without him here. He's going to be so mad. But we got a kicker that can kick touchbacks, and you know what Mata said? I saw Mata respond to this being like, excited to work with you. I am committed. I'm not leaving. I'm staying in Boulder. And that's why we love Mata. Now we got Mata. Now we get Mata some help too with the kickoffs. Kicking game immediately in much better shape. Like that's super exciting. So Prime got us, guys. I ain't worried. I ain't worried about if things move slow or nothing. We got our quarterback is coming in for spring ball. Obviously, that's huge. I always love it when these kids can graduate and get on campus and have a whole spring semester to learn the offense, work with the coordinators, work with the players that are going to come back and play with them in the fall. And it sounds like we might also have some potential to get a quarterback in the portal. I can't remember his name, but the Liberty quarterback, I believe, visited, and he's had a very successful.
Caden something.
We'll look it up. But he's had a very successful career at Liberty, and that would be a huge opportunity to push Juju, right? Push Juju, get him some competition. Maybe the transfer ends up winning, and Juju has the opportunity to sit behind him and learn. That's not a bad plan either. But I am not worried, guys. Like, talk to me in April or May, and we'll look at the roster then. And if it's not in good shape, then we can cry about it. But as long as Prime stays, which he's definitely staying, guys. Like, you can clip this if it ends up backfiring, but he's definitely staying. Like, he sees an opportunity here, right? He wants to build something huge. And this is just the beginning. Like the Heisman's just the beginning. 9-3 season's just the beginning. We can compete for Big 12 championships every year, right? Because we keep cleaning up on the portal. We bring in high school talent that's immediately ready to come play. We mentioned Cash Cleveland. Cash Cleveland walk-on, and he's getting all sorts of recognition for his performance as a true freshman.
Yeah,
that's not even looking at Seton, who is the number one OT prospect.
Just a quick follow-up on the Prime leaving thing. Travis Hunter was asked that during the Heisman Trophy press conference, and the question was like, "You must have inside information. You go to Prime's house all the time to fish." And Travis laughs, and he's like, "Of course, I have inside information. He's not going anywhere." So
he ain't going nowhere.
And
that's
the quote.
Stephen A. Smith can get as mad as he wants about Prime not going to one of his favorite destinations. I bet Stephen A. Smith would want to see Prime go coach at Rutgers because it's close to New York, just for no other reason.
Stephen A. Smith exclusively wants to get angry about things, but to his credit, he's made an entire career out of it. So can't even hate the guy. He's
big shout.
I think maybe during the offseason, but at some point a conversation needs to be had about the transfer portal. Now that we're making bowl games, transfer portal cannot open in December. Like, the guys should not be leaving. And I don't blame them. They have to make the decision, right? Arizona State had the same problem. They're in the playoff, and Arizona State is hemorrhaging talent to the portal because that's just the stupid way that we've set up college football. So now, back when Colorado, the season was over after the 12 regular season games, I was more in favor of it. But, I don't know. That's got to get fixed because it sucks. Like, guys should be able to play out and finish the season without having to worry about jeopardizing a potential roster spot at a new spot. I get with Nakai Hill-Green, he pressure's gone to the NFL, but I don't blame him for trying to get the bag, especially with NIL money that's out there. And for sure, as far as transfers go, he's someone that could go get the bag. So I don't know if you had a follow up on that, Sreyas. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and move us into our BYU Storm and Mormons preview. Going into the game at the Alamo Bowl, I told everyone that I would go to any bowl game except for the Alamo Bowl. I just cannot bring myself emotionally to do it after some pretty negative Alamo Bowl experiences. Anyone who's going, have a great time. Riverwalk is cool. I think the stadium's very mid, but that's not what this preview is about. This is not Chase's travel feedback guide. Instead, Colorado, 3-point favorite, over under set at 53.5, expected to be a pretty high scoring game. Colorado's minus 140 on the money line. And a lot of that is predicated around Shedeur and Travis playing. I've already kind of let my thoughts be known about that, but I will also point out, as a Penn State fan as well, that's my other degree, at the Peach Bowl last year, they said Fashanu, who was like the stud offensive lineman who got drafted in the first round, was going to play. And they insisted he's going to play. And then the Peach Bowl comes and basically none of them play. So I'll believe it when I see it. I do hope. I want to win a bowl game. Colorado needs to win a bowl game. We need to get the specter out of the closet. We got to win a bowl game. And this is one that is eminently winnable. But I also do not want to see Travis or Shedeur suffer an injury. So if they play one quarter and then call it a game, I wouldn't blame them for it one bit. I just hope that we can end the season on a good note. I am going to take Colorado to cover the spread, and I'm going to take the over in this game. I think it's going to be one of those fun and flirty 37-20 kind of games. I don't even know if that covers the over. It does. So I'm on the over.
What was the over under again, Chase?
54.5.
54. Okay. So BYU saw a few of their games towards the end of the year, and especially that Houston game. Man, it seems like BYU actually got worse as the season went on. It really seemed like they were not playing well. And against Houston, especially, the fact that Houston had the ball with an opportunity to take the lead towards the end of the fourth quarter, and I believe that they were past midfield too. So they were driving. The fact that Houston was moving the ball with nothing. I mean, God, that was the most god-awful offense I've seen since CU in 2022. That was bad. But Houston has a good defense. And so CU is absolutely – they can't show up like they did at Arrowhead. They really can't show up like they did in Arrowhead. And I know I've gone back and forth now, where some episodes I say that was totally on us. We had nothing, no one but ourselves to blame. And there's some truth to that. And then the other part of it, which is there's a lot of missed holding calls, which set the tone for that to happen. I think there's some truth to that too. Either way, regardless of which one was a bigger influence or not, we can't show up that way against BYU. BYU is going to run the ball down your face. They're definitely a smash mouth type of team. And their quarterback, he also kind of regressed towards the end of the year. He didn't particularly impress me against Houston, who albeit has a good defense. But Retzloff, he made some huge throws early in the season, including that absolute miracle walk-off against, God, who was that against? Was it Iowa State? No, it was Baylor. It was Baylor, because that was where Baylor's season completely turned around, after getting heartbroken again. And I think – no, wait, it was Iowa State. Shoot, I'm getting all my games mixed up. So, they had multiple games like this where they just pulled out miracles at the end. They didn't look good against Utah. We all know what Utah looked like against CU. And that gives me a lot of optimism here that CU can get over the hump and finally grab that long sought after. It's been 20 years since we've had a bowl win. Boy, would that be nice. That said, I think I'll probably take the under here. So I think that it's going to be kind of close, and our defense is really going to I'm counting on our defense to step up. So I'll go something more like 24-17. And I'd be ecstatic with that. 10 wins to end the season to put a nice cap on it. And then don't forget, this was the Bizarro World Big 12 Championship. This is the Big 12 Championship that a lot of people are expecting the week that we lost to Kansas. So BYU and CU were both in the driver's seat. They both fumbled, and then Iowa State and Arizona State ended up getting it out. And CU didn't get to play any of the other three teams, and I believe BYU only played Iowa State. So there's a lot of there's a lot of possibility to pull a UCF and claim a Big 12 championship out of this if we win big.
I don't think we'll do that. Knowing Coach Prime, that's funny. Guys, I went back and forth on this a lot. I think BYU is a better team than people are giving credit for. They're definitely on a downward spiral here towards the end of the season, and momentum's everything. But CU just won the Heisman Trophy, and they just cleaned up a bunch of awards. I'm hoping that they're not complacent. My other big concern is losing Nakai Hill-Green. He won't be playing in the bowl game, I'm assuming, because he's transferring. And BYU is a very good run team, and that's going to be a big hole in our defense. So that worries me. But ultimately, Shador's a winner. Coach Prime's a winner, and Travis Hunter are winners. So I'm going to go CU 31, BYU 28. It's going to be a really close game. I think BYU is going to be really hungry to win this bowl game because it's one of the best bowls they've ever been in. So I think it's going to be a good matchup.
Yeah, and that's true. That's important context with BYU. BYU, to a much lesser extent, has somewhat been wandering the college football desert for some time. They had their own Heisman winner, Ty Detmer, whose brother went to CU and was a star quarterback for the Buffs. And they have their own national championship, right? 1984, I believe they won the national championship. So they have a storied past. It's a little bit further removed from CU's storied past, but they have kind of struggled to get back to that level, especially because of the years after the Mountain West dissolved and they went independent. So they're going to want this one real bad too, and I hope that we have the opportunity here to get the job done and get rid of clean out some ghosts. It'd be nice, guys. So transitioning to our next topic, something that we have avoided a lot on this podcast lately, but man, we've got a lot to talk about with this team. Tad Boyle's CU basketball team, they are off to a pretty good start, all things considered, right? I mean, they were picked to finish dead last in the Big 12. They lost 3 NBA prospects. They also lost Javon Hadley. I mean, it's massive losses. Talking about replacing basically the entire starting lineup, and Eddie Lampkin transferred to Syracuse as well. So, I mean, you literally losing your entire starting 5 there. And man, they have played pretty well. Like, they have a ranked win over UConn, who's the back-to-back national champion. They only 2 losses are to Michigan State and to Iowa State, who are both ranked. Yes, both of those teams kind of beat CU pretty bad, but those are your only 2 losses. And then CSU, who had been spending the whole last year talking about that win last year in Fort Collins, come to Boulder and just get demolished. I mean, that game last year, that was a close game. A CU fan, you can't even look at losing a road game like that last year in a tough environment against a team that also ended up going to the tournament, had a great season. You can't look at that as too bad. Like, if you remove the rivalry part of it, it's not too bad, right? But the CSU fans, they like to talk about that even after we advanced further in the tournament than they did. And boy, Nate Clifford did not look good in that game. And part of that is CU. This team can play a little bit of defense. I want to hear from Chase because I know Jake. Jake is a little bit of a Tad Boy hater, but I know he's also kind of impressed too, right?
For people that are not watching on YouTube, Jake is punching the air right now. He's furious. He cannot stand the idea of Colorado basketball being good. He's boiling with rage. But
okay, I need to interject. You can't just call me out here.
I am boiling with love for Tad Boyle. How's that?
Oh man,
this team,
Pat Shermer love.
This
really
is
quick because you called me out. I would love nothing more than a great college basketball team. I was a bigger college basketball fan before getting involved in the football student section and became a bigger football fan through that. So I would love nothing more than a great CU basketball team. Go for it, Chase.
Shreyas, you were previously mentioning that we should just hang the Big 12 banner. I actually think we should hang the college basketball championship banner this season for beating UConn. As far as I am concerned, that's the end of the season. That's it. That's all we had to do. Any wins that this team gets, this is my expectation for this team. If this team wins any games in the Big 12, Tad Boyle is the greatest college basketball coach of all time, because this conference is hell.
My fists in the air.
It's loaded.
This conference is hell, but Colorado is holding its own. Bellarmine's going to be a tough game. That one's the next one. For people that aren't sickos that bet on college basketball, that's a pretty scary game. But then guess what? We get to start versus Iowa State for our Big 12 return, and it's just ranked teams galore in what is the best basketball conference in college basketball. And the fact that that's even disputed on Twitter is kind of insane to me, that SEC fans think that they're better. But I mean, regardless,
right now they are. They have more ranked teams higher.
Right now, the SEC has the deep state backing them in the AP poll voting. The SEC is not a better
fraudulent ballot boxes, right?
The fraudulent, yeah. So, I mean, if you had asked me, what is Colorado's record going to be in non-conference, I would have been thrilled, through 10 games to be 8-2. If we're 8-3, if we lose to Bellarmine and drop that one, so be it. I mean, that is a really good out of conference, considering we did not just play a bunch of nobodies, right? Like, we played some pretty good teams, and the teams that we should have taken care of business against, we did. Topher, it's a shame he's not on here, because Topher keeps trying to tell me that Northern Colorado is a pretty good basketball team this year. After watching that game, I didn't feel like either team was a very good basketball team this year, but I think the guys are stepping up. I think this is definitely a reload year. This is not a March Madness year. I don't think we're going to make the dance by any means, but it is refreshing to see that we are not just a total floor mat. It'll be interesting to see how that applies once we get into the Big 12 play.
Yeah, real quick before Jake goes too, I was looking at the Kelly Ford rankings for the Big 12 this year. Most up to date, not preseason predictions, but most up to date. And it is terrifying looking at the bottom half, like the bottom quadrant, we'll say, of this conference, and seeing a team like UCF there who beat Texas A&M. And that's a bottom quadrant Big 12 team. This is going to be a gauntlet. We have not seen basketball, like competitive basketball schedule like this since the last time we're in the Big 12. Last time we're in the Big 12, a 500, I believe it was a 500 team, at least one. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Kansas State, was an 11 seed and made it without even having to play the first weekend. And so that is kind of what we're staring at here. If somehow, some way, we can win 8 games, 9 games, 8, 9 games or something, 10 would be in lock. Like 10, if we win 10, and some of those include like a home win against Iowa State, for example, or a home win against Cincinnati, like we are dancing. Is that going to happen? Ooh, I don't know. I'd be surprised.
That was beautiful optimism, so that the dark clouds that are Jake come rolling in.
I was actually going to keep it going. That actually excites me. I think that gives us a better shot to make the tournament. If you somehow make some noise in the Big 12, you can have somewhat of a respectable schedule, get into the tournament. But I don't think I'm going to be as dark clouded today, because this team has really impressed me. My expectation going into the year is I literally did not think we would win a Big 12 game before the season started. Yeah. I was like, gosh, I was going to go into the season with no hope.
We still might not.
And we had to go to Maui. We had to go to Maui. Like, that Maui field this year was outrageous. Like, Iowa State didn't even win Maui. Yeah,
I was going to say my perception shifted right in that UConn game. Probably, I don't know, with 5 minutes left to go in the first half, our math intern texted our chat, and he's like, I'm starting to have hope, which really sucks because I can't wait for that to be broken. I can't remember what he said. It was perfectly well said. I'm like, dude, I'm in the same boat. Ever since that game, I have hope, and I enjoy watching this team. It's a well-balanced team. They're scoring all around. You don't know whose night it's going to be. Their last game, Yakimovsky had a not so great night, and the other guys stepped up around him. So I like that element of it. But then on the flip side, we have no stars. I don't know who they're going to give the ball to when we're down with a couple seconds left to go. I guess Yakimovsky with that UConn game, he should hit that huge shot. I think he's one of the
That
stars
was kind
of
of
this
a
team.
miracle, wasn't it? That
It was.
He was not looking at the bucket.
Yeah.
He's kind of flipped it over his head.
Yeah, Elijah Malone has really surprised me. I think he's really the star of this team. I think we need to feed him the ball more in the post as much as we can. And one thing I really love about his game is he can stretch out the floor. He has a good 3-ball shot. He's a really talented player. Julian Hammond leads the team in points with 13.4 per game. I don't know if he's surprised me or not. I kind of expected him to be the star, kind of rise into that role along with Ruffin. And Ruffin hasn't done that so much, averaging 5 points per game. Another guy who I've been very, very, very impressed with and very excited about is RJ Smith. He was lower in the rotation. I want to say like the 7th, 8th guy in the rotation at the beginning of the season. And he stepped up and he's been a starter. In that last game, he was part of the starting rotation and he's really exciting. I really like what he's doing and he's a really young, talented player. So I'm optimistic. I guess on the flip side, just to give the full review, one guy that I haven't been super excited about and I thought I'd see more is Trevor Baskin. He's kind of a turnover machine. Whenever he gets the ball down low, I get a little nervous. He gives me Eddie Lampkin vibes. But he's got so much potential. He's got a great long body type to be a really solid player. And you've seen flashes of it for the Buffs. But I really hope he can step up as the season progresses because he's a really big piece of this team.
Yeah. Couple things I'll add to that with guys like Baskin, Malone. So Baskin came from Mesa D2. Malone, I don't even know where he came from. He came from NAIA. That's a very rare transition. You rarely ever see someone coming from NAIA. I mean, that's like that's we're talking about like Johnson and Wales and that type of stuff, right? No, I'm serious. Like that's where Derek White was going to go play before he went to UCCS.
Yeah.
So seeing that transition, but he was, to be fair to him, he was the national NAIA Player of the Year. So obviously he was looking for an bigger opportunity. So what I'm getting at with this is we had pieces, decent pieces. Yakimovsky from Washington State. We had some decent pieces, and we also should have predicted that it would take them some time to come together and play well. And we saw early on, a lot of us were very worried watching some of those games like the UNC game where just turnovers left and right. And as Jake has pointed out, which I agree with, that has kind of become a hallmark of Tad Boyle teams, like these high turnover counts. And this is why Tad Boyle always relies on having a major point guard glue guy holding everything together. And every good Tad Boyle team since he's come to CU has had Spencer Dinwiddie, has had a McKinley Wright, has had a KJ Simpson. And we'll see if Hammond is that guy. Hammond has played really well so far this year, but he's not a huge distributor yet.
Can I add to that really quick, Shreyas? I think a big thing with those guys you just mentioned, those studs, point guards, is they do such a great job penetrating and kicking the ball out and dishing the ball out and finding the open guy. And this is my biggest criticism of Tad Boyle is, in my opinion, his offense is really stagnant. That's what I've seen for the past 10 years. But when you get a guy like McKinley Wright, he did a great job of that. Able to penetrate in the paint and move the ball, it just works wonders.
Yep. Yeah, definitely agree. We'll see if Hammond can be that guy. Is awesome that CU beat UConn. I do think that our length is going to be problematic for some teams. Bangot Dak and Asan Jope. So Asan Jope has pretty much done nothing offensively this year, but his length is super disruptive. And Bangot Dak, actually, I believe Bangot Dak is actually taller. And his length and his athleticism is a major, major problem. And he had a highlight reel dunk, I think, an alley-oop against CSU where I thought his head was going to hit the rim. I mean, this guy is super athletic, and they're playing. So the good side about Tad Boyle teams is the ones that play well, they play team defense, like really, really strong team defense. And if we have guys like that, rim protectors, good on-ball defenders, then we can hang in there with some of these teams that maybe we shouldn't. And then the final point I'll make is Yakimovsky. He's been very streaky. He's been very streaky. He's only shooting 38%, 38.5% this year, and only 31.6% from three. But the games where he has played really well offensively have been the games where CU have been most impressive, right?
Yeah.
And that UConn game comes to mind off the top of my head. He didn't put up huge numbers. It was still 12 points, but he was still 2 of 4 from three, 4 of 7 overall. Like, those are the types of games that we need from him moving forward in order to find that offense. And as we open the Big 12 season, I think we open against Iowa State at home. If you guys are in town, it would be a fun one to go to. We'll see if Topher wants to go too. That one's they killed us in Maui. They absolutely killed us. If we look good, we steal that game, all of a sudden this has some vibes to like Tad Boyle's first team, where they just they came out and beat Mizzou in Tad Boyle's first season. All of a sudden, after a terrible non-conference, they were way worse in non-conference that year. All of a sudden, when they beat Mizzou, everyone's eyes open, like, oh, wow, okay. And you know what? They almost made the tournament that year, and really,
it's the hope that kills you. It's the hope that kills you, Shreyas.
Yeah, Shreyas, I think there'll be more Iowa State fans in the CU Event Center that night. That's why,
including Jake, by the way.
Including Jake, no.
I am conflicted on who to give the Pat Shurmur / Alejandro Mata treatment on this basketball team, but I think it has to be. Joe, who has been, or maybe Bangkok Dak. I don't know. I'm conflicted. I can go one way or the other. What's that?
Coach Zach Rubisam.
Rubisam. Yeah, we did have him on the pod.
That's true. Yeah,
that's our guy.
I just think this team is weird because I really did. We watched Jope and we're like, this guy is him. Like, he's going to be the guy, and he just has not translated that necessarily offensively. And so I think I'm going to have to make another stand, and that he is going to be my basketball
I love it
guy, because I just don't believe it. Like, the law of averages cannot, he is too good to be scoring what 2.5 points a game.
Just shooting.
I love it. I hope this Chase curse works.
I know he is better than that. And so I don't know. I think the other component that you guys talked about with the streakiness, particularly with the guy whose name is unfortunately pronounced not in the hilarious way, but in the Eastern European way. But I really do think that if he finds some consistency, it would be great. But more importantly, the randomness of it makes us scary for any Big 12 team, particularly in the keg, because and the 8 listeners still listening while we're talking about basketball I don't know. But I think this team can actually be kind of scary. I don't think we're going to win basically any road Big 12 games this season. Jakimovsky, Jake, would be the joke, would be the hilarious name of pronouncing that. Okay. But I just don't think that this team's going to be a team that can win necessarily. Now, that being said, we have a transitive win over Gonzaga right now, right? We beat UConn, and then UConn decided to stop being bad. And so maybe we can. I just think if this team's going to catch people by surprise, it's going to have to be at home. And I think, it's the hope that kills you. We've seen a lot of seasons where we do very well in non-conference, and then the wheels completely fall off the wagon. And that was back in the Pac-12. I just don't, I don't know. I'm still a little hesitant. I think we should just hang the national championship banner for beating UConn, call it a day. And any wins that we get from here on out are good wins. But turns out I'm the most pessimistic one about basketball. So I guess we're totally upside down. But Jope, I am officially backing you. I know that you are going to be averaging over 7 points per game by the time we are halfway through conference schedule. So that's my stand.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I want to talk to a couple other guys. Bangkok Dak, I feel like you guys didn't chat about him enough. Surace, you gave him a brief shout out. You said just his pure athleticism. And you mentioned their heights. Bangkok Dak is 6'11". Hassan Jope is 6'8". And both of those guys are sophomores. And they're so athletic. They just need to piece it together. And you could tell they're getting there. Because Bangkok Dak loves the three-point shot, which drives me nuts. But there's a reason for it. He's hitting those in practice. And I think at some
no, there is no
Yes.
reason for it. No,
Yes, there is.
no,
Yes, there
you are
is.
too
Tad
tall
will
to
be
be
chewing
shooting
him
a three.
out. Look at Elijah Malone. He has our best 3-point percentage on the team, other than RJ Smith, and he's the tallest guy, one of the tallest guys on the team. Look at Jokic. It's not a height thing, but they're sophomores. I'm really optimistic that those two guys can get it together. When they're seniors, I think they're going to be studs. As long as they can stay at CU, I'm really optimistic. I'm excited about both of those guys, Dak and Jope. A couple other guys.
Real quick, I'll just make a point about Dak. In the old NBA, not so much anymore, where pretty much everyone has to be able to do everything. But in the old version of the NBA, the one where Andre Robertson made it in the league, and where you had defensive specialists like Tony Allen, someone like Bangot Dak could absolutely develop into an NBA, like a playable NBA player as a wing defender, a small forward shooting guard type. I know he's 6'11", but some of these teams, they play some of these guys who are athletic, even if they're super tall, out of position, just to be able to defend. And he has the potential to be a rim protector and an on-ball defender. And I think Jope does as well. So that doesn't really play in the modern NBA anymore, and things have changed a lot in the last 10, 20 years. But that could be a really important piece to a team that does end up making some noise in the future for CU. And who knows, if they figure it out this year, they have every opportunity to play against top competition and improve their resume and get back on the right side of the bubble. They're not even in the bubble conversation right now, which is kind of interesting. But it takes a couple surprising wins to get back on the side. And you have these key defenders. Even if Jope or Dak don't score, they're very important parts of this team. Go ahead, Jake.
Just briefly to talk to some other guys. I'll do the more Debbie Downer one first. Javon Ruffin. He's one of the junior leaders on this team, and he kind of had to step up in this role a little earlier than he would have liked. I think, but he is only averaging 4 points per game, which is 8th on the team, maybe 9th. He has one of the worst field goal percentages and the worst 3-point percentage on this team. I really want to see him step up. One thing that I do like out of his game is he has the lowest amount of turnovers on this team, which this Tabloid basketball team really needs. So I really want to see Javon Ruffin step it up. That should have been your guy, Chase. That'll be my guy. I'm endorsing Javon Ruffin. I believe in you. Let's bring it. Hassan Jope and Javon Ruffin are about to go off on this next game.
Javon Ruffin doesn't know it, but his entire career has just been ended.
The Jake curse is worse than the Madden cover curse. Watch out. One other guy I want to shout out, and I think he really deserves a shout out, is Harrison Carrington. Walk-on player for the Buffs, got a scholarship. Right before the season started, Tab Boyle saw something in him, and he was totally right. He's been doing really well, giving really good quality minutes for this team. He's not a huge prolific scorer, but every time he's out there, it seems like he's giving good quality minutes. So just want to give him a shout out as well.
Hey, Chase, you want to drive down to Orlando on January 8th to see the CU-UCF game?
To be discussed after the pod.
As optimistic as Chase is about this basketball team, I don't know.
It's on a Wednesday. Does that sound compliant to your work life schedule?
Yeah, less optimistic about that one. But I do hope the Big 12 continues to expand eastward to give some more opportunities. But.
Maybe we'll get the University of Barbados next, U.S. Virgin Islands. We got to
not quite what I meant. But
yeah, UGA, leave that piss poor conference of the SEC and come to a real basketball.
Conference. Yeah, seriously.
That's true. Yeah, I love it. It's actually crazy how good the SEC is, though. When you look up and down the conference, the number of ranked wins, not just ranked teams, but the number of ranked wins and stuff, it's kind of
goes
wild.
To show how important football is. Get football right, everything will follow. Academics and other sports included.
We're getting there, baby. We're getting there. Hey, you brought up academics too. Hey, shout out to CU and Coach Prime for that incredible APR. I think they said it was an all-time high for CU this year. I haven't seen what the number is, but I saw an article from the university.
APR? You're going to have to explain that. Interest rates are going up?
Okay. It's definitely time to end this pod. All right, we're done. We're done.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you're still listening, you are truly one of our better fans, especially staying on for basketball. But as always, if you could, please give us a follow on X, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Thank you to our sponsor. We did not have a Q Wealth Management Player of the Game today, but we do appreciate them as always. And until next time, what did Travis say? Go Buffs, baby!
Go Buffs, baby!